Hello. Thank you all so much for being here today and welcome to Abilities First. Our mission here at Abilities First is to advocate, enhance services, and positively impact the lives of Greene County citizens with developmental disabilities. Abilities First helps people with developmental disabilities acquire the services and supports that they need to live and work in our community. The board at Abilities First is committed to improving existing services and facilitating the development of new resources for our community. We are very honored to have Governor Nixon here with us today. As Governor, Jay Nixon has focused on balancing the budget every year, holding the line on taxes, and protecting Missouri's most vulnerable citizens, and especially the children. In 2010, he launched the Partnership for Hope to provide earlier access to services for Missourians with disabilities and their families. He also led the fight to pass bipartisan legislation requiring insurance companies to cover the diagnosis and treatment of autism. Today, the governor is here to talk about another issue of special interest here at Abilities First. We see the transformative impact this program has on families in our region each and every day. First Steps is something that's very near and dear to our heart. We've been providing early intervention services in Missouri for over 20 years, and we recognize the value of that service. With that, please join me in welcoming the 55th governor of the great state of Missouri, Jay Nixon.
Thank you. And for members of the press, I'll take questions, but I'll take them. We'll get out here. It's kind of it's a big room. There's just lots of people because it's a really important thing. And I appreciate everybody for being here. Thank you, Jan, not only for the kind introduction, but also for the work you do each and every day. As I look in this room, I see a tremendous amount of energy and a number of leaders that's too long for me to even go through the list. But it is great to be back here at Abilities First here in Springfield, which is an organization that is committed to ensuring that every citizen has every opportunity to succeed in a community that has rallied behind these very same goals. Over the past 4 years, with your help, we've made great strides in helping Missourians with mental, physical, and developmental challenges lead fuller, more productive lives. At a time when other states were stepping back, we were stepping up. In 2010, we came together to pass a landmark law requiring insurance companies to cover the diagnosis and treatment of autism spectrum disorders. Today, because of the people who are here and the work we've done in this state, 1.6 million Missourians are insured by policies that cover these proven, effective treatment, and thousands of kids are getting those treatments today. In October 2010, we worked together to launch the Partnership for Hope to provide earlier access to services for Missourians with developmental disabilities and their families. The idea behind that partnership is simple: end the wait for services, avoid or delay the need for institutional placement, and keep families together. Already, the partnership has helped more than 2,000 Missourians with developmental disabilities reach their full potential, and we're working to help thousands more. And last year, we fought to restore funding for health care for blind Missourians, and we won. We want to continue to build on this progress, and that is what brings us together today. We're here during this final week of the legislative session to discuss an urgent matter before the General Assembly, a matter that affects thousands of families here in Springfield and across the state, funding for the First Steps program. We're joined today by parents and grandparents, doctors and nurses, teachers and therapists, all united in a common purpose: to call on the legislature to responsibly fund the First Steps program so that children with early impairments can continue to receive the vital services that they so need. For more than 2 decades, the First Steps program has provided early intervention services to families of infants and children with developmental disabilities or delays. This program is based on a few simple and effective concepts. First, early intervention. Because the first few years of a child's life are so critical to their development, a relatively small investment early on yields big returns later in life. Second, empowering families. Families know their children best, so First Steps tailor services to fit each family's individual needs and routines. And third, inclusion. A happy, healthy child is one that is engaged with his or her community, not isolated from their community. The services provided by First Steps are designed to enhance children's participation in family and community life. This program has strong bipartisan support. This program is fiscally responsible, and it works. A couple of quick examples. Take Kim and her son George in Glasgow. As an infant, George had trouble breathing and keeping down food. He had throat surgery to treat the condition, but these early issues put him behind on his physical and speech development. Through the First Steps program, George and his family were able to work with speech pathologists and an occupational therapist. Today, George's physical development is back on track, and he can communicate with family and teachers. First Step also made a big difference for Danielle and her twins Caleb and Chloe in Wentzville. Chloe and Caleb were born premature and spent months in a neonatal intensive care unit at Mercy Hospital. When they got home, Danielle was concerned about their development and reached out to First Steps, which provided in-home therapy services to Chloe and Caleb. Today, those two children are thriving and performing well on tests. Finally, talk about Debbie and her daughter Cecilia in Kansas City. Cecilia was born 3 months premature and was later diagnosed with cerebral palsy and visual impairment. From day one, First Steps was there to help Debbie and Cecilia every step of the way. Debbie describes that First Steps team showed up, gave her some very simple strategies for how to interact more effectively with her daughter. Cecilia's screaming episode stopped the next day. Debbie says that Cecilia continues to exceed expectations and make remarkable progress thanks to First Steps. So in every corner of our state, we could go through example after example after example, concrete times in which this coordinated effort by our state to help and be involved at a very young age is making a real and lasting difference. Stories of how First Steps has helped children and their families make huge transformational strides. Because the real testament to the effectiveness of First Steps isn't how children do when they are in the program, it's how they do after they transition out of the program. By giving families the tools to help their children thrive, these temporary services have a lasting impact and, quite frankly, also dramatically reduce the need for more costly interventions later on. For these families, First Step delivers a simple and powerful message. You are not alone, and you can put your child on a path to a bright and independent future. Empowering parents, strengthening families, supporting infants and children, that is what First Steps is all about. That is why my budget this year proposed $20 million in general revenue for First Steps for the upcoming fiscal year, funding that both the House and the Senate included in their original budgets without any controversy. This represents an increase of $1.5 million, which will help this program reach even more families and meet a steadily increasing demand for these services. But today, as we stand here, that funding is in peril. The legislature's budget for next fiscal year needlessly pits funding for First Steps against funding for low-income seniors. This trade-off is not necessary and should not be tolerated, especially when it comes to our state's most vulnerable citizens. Funding for First Steps must be funded now and funded in full. Legislation is moving forward in the Senate that would protect funding for First Steps and ensure families continue to receive the support and services they so richly need. Time is running short, so please make your voices heard. Join me in urging the legislature to get this legislation to my desk this week. Here in Missouri, we will continue to balance our budgets, we will continue to maintain strict fiscal discipline, and we will continue to protect our most vulnerable citizens. I want to thank everybody here for the work that you do with your children and families in this region, and together we'll build a brighter, healthier, more prosperous future for all Missourians. I tell you what, we've got the press here. I'll just take questions right here. It's probably just as simple since I got to get back to the Capitol and do my stuff, so I'll be glad. Anyway, thanks to everybody here. Thanks for the folks at Abilities. Thanks to the folks out in the hall. If the press has any questions, I'll be glad to take them. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Governor, would you support the so-called circuit breaker bill here if there was some sort of passage of a comprehensive tax credit package?
No, I mean, when I return to Jefferson City, I'm going to veto that bill. I made clear that eliminating one part of the program does not represent balanced comprehensive tax credit reform, and I think that the way that they've done that is not the right. I started that back in April, and the two prongs I said is we're going to have balanced tax credit reform if we're going to have it, and any savings we get from that particular program has to be spent impactfully for seniors, the exact place where it came from. On both sides of that test, they have failed. Consequently, by the time I get back to the Capitol, now that the bill's been presented, I will veto Senate Bill 350 or House Bill 350, whatever it is.
Do you plan to
Yeah.
veto the so-called criminal protection bill that just
I haven't had a chance. I mean, I'm reading them one at a time. This is one I know I disagree with. That's why I communicated to the legislature back in April that this was not the right path to move forward. That's why I communicated again with them last Friday why they shouldn't do this. That's why I'm communicating again today why they shouldn't do this. And that's why by the first thing I do when I get back to the Capitol is going to be veto the bill that's on my desk. Once again, I haven't had time to review them yet. I'm assuming it's coming to my desk. I think we're still reviewing other bills. A measure similar to that obviously came to my desk 2.5 years ago that I did not look favorably upon. But I want to make sure look what's in the bill and see what it looks like. But for a long time, those common sense protections have served our state well. That measure was presented to me in my first, a measure similar to that was presented to me in my first or second year as governor that I did not look favorably upon. And I haven't changed my opinion. I just got to look at what the bill looks like. They may have other measures in it. Yeah.
Two parts here. What's
Sure.
next for the Medicaid issue? And the second part here, would you ever consider maybe next session doing something similar to Arkansas where they're involved in private insurance?
Well, first of all, I think that the legislature, by not moving forward on Medicaid expansion, is making a big mistake. We have an opportunity to draw down almost $2 billion of 100% federal dollars to put downward pressure on premiums for Missourians, to increase opportunities for health care in the state, to avoid the cost shift that causes other people's insurance rates to go up. We'll continue to work on this issue. Just because the bell's going to ring at 6 o'clock on Friday night does not mean I'll feel any better about people in this room, everybody in this state. If they don't do anything, which it doesn't look like they're going to do on that issue, every person here over the next year will take $300 out of your pockets and pay that in taxes to Washington, D.C., and it will be spent in other states for health care in their state while we see premiums rise here. That is not in the best long-term economic interest or health care interest of our state. I'll continue to work on that issue in the interim, but I'll certainly looking for ways to reform and make health care more efficient and effective, and going through the private insurance market for part of that, the way that Arkansas is talking about is potentially one path forward to do that. I'm not ruling out any of those, but we never got the Senate to get to a serious, thoughtful discussion about the issue this year. I do think the House, in some of the work they did, made some significant progress, and those folks that know me know that I will keep pounding on the wall till I find a door.
Are hospitals going to take a hit without the expansion?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're going to see. I mean, you'll see some things, and I mean, I don't want to quote what's happened today, but I mean, you're going to clearly see when you talk about backing down some of the Medicare reimbursements, when you talk about not bringing in $2 billion into a healthcare economy of a state. I mean, and yet the people have to pay the taxes. I mean, in essence, it's $2 billion that Missourians will pay that will not be used here in this state. You bet that it's going to be a deleterious effect. But let's instead of commenting on things that it appears aren't going to get done, I'm here today about one that can and will and should. This has strong bipartisan support in both the House and Senate. This was in the budget passed by the House and the Senate. It was only in some machinations later on that they were pitting various groups against each other. I just asked everybody here who understands and knows this program so well and has lived it, quite frankly, to communicate with your legislators to get that first steps fix on my desk by Friday. We'll then give the legislature 7 months off, and you can talk to them back in the districts after that about these other issues. But we need to get this done, and we need to get it done this week. I wouldn't be here unless I needed to be here, but I also wouldn't be here if I wasn't confident if we speak in one voice that we'll get this done. All right, yeah. Well, it's thank you. This is both a very complicated and a very simple program. It's complicated because everybody's different, and all of us are different. And this is a program that has been able to meld to that great diversity in our state, as well as any I've seen in my years of public service. And to think that it would be used as some sort of bargaining chip or ploy is just I mean, I have to. You guys can insert an adjective or an adverb there. It's just not right. So I feel like I got to be careful. These guys are apparently printing and filming what I say. But thank y'all very much.